At first, Jane rode stiffly, acutely conscious of Grant's critical eye on her. Her hands felt wooden, and getting a good knee grip in a pair of baggy overalls was a very different matter from riding in well-tailored breeches. But by the time Lady settled into a smooth canter, Jane had forgotten everything else in the world. Around and around in the big meadow they swept. Jane could have gone on forever, but she pulled Lady down to a trot and returned triumphantly to the gate. Then she noticed the tall woman leaning on the fence beside Grant. "Oh my," she thought in sudden panic, "I bet she's mad at him for letting me ride her horse. Oh, what if he loses his job?" But Grant was smiling and waving as Jane jogged through the gate. Grant turned to the woman and said, "Mother, this is Jane McGregor. How about it? Shall I let her break Sonny for me?" Jane blushed and stammered something as Mrs. Davison said, "I'm very happy to meet you, Jane. I expect you could do a good job on Sonny if you aren't afraid to take a few spills. Come up to the house, you two, when you're through, and we'll try to find something to eat." Later, sitting on the porch with Grant and his mother, eating cake and drinking cold milk, Jane blurted out, I thought Grant was a stable boy." "I am," he replied, through a large mouthful of cake. "Of course Dad helps on weekends." "Grant had been in complete charge of the stable ever since we moved here," explained her mother. "It was that or give up the horses and move into an apartment. The only thing that worries me is the fact that he doesn't seem to have gotten acquainted with anyone at school yet." "Well, gosh," complained Grant, "I have to rush right home after school, and then most people are such dopes about horses. You can't very well walk up to a perfect stranger and say, 'Come on home with me this afternoon, and we'll have a fine time shoveling out a stable.'" "I don't see why not," exclaimed Jane with spirit. "I'll come and shovel every day, that is, if you'll let me. And as for getting acquainted, I know what. You just come to my birthday party a week from tomorrow, and you'll get acquainted with the whole gang. They're a pretty good bunch, too," she added, "even if they are dopes about horses." As Jane bicycled home, protesting muscles told her that she would be stiff tomorrow, but she rode in a haze of happiness. She burst into the house, shouting, "Mother, Mother, isn't it about time we did something about my party?" "Your party?" "Sure, it's my birthday next week. Don't I always have a party?" Mrs. McGregor beamed. "Why, Jane, darling, I'm so glad you're taking an interest in things at last. I was afraid you never stopped mooning because you couldn't have a horse." Jane threw her arms around her mother in a bear hug. "I don't have to moon any more about horses. I haven't got," she caroled. "I've got horses, or just as good as. I can ride every single day, yes, and mess around the stable all I want. Golly, I've got to dig up my jopers and some overalls that fit. And jeepers, I'd better get on the phone and start rounding up the gang. How many may I ask? And I'll have to make up with Chuck first. I know I'll ask him to bring Carol. She hasn't got a date for the fall dance yet. And say, Mother, how about a new dress? Something that will just knock your eye out. There's a new boy coming, and he doesn't know anything about it yet, but I have a date with him for the fall dance."